Greetings, Culture Warriors. It is I, Jeff Vieira, the author of Culture is Everything, and your host for this latest Dispatch from the Front. Story for you today from Breitbart. Business groups warn H1B outsourcing reform is imminent. The long-awaited reform of the H1B outsourcing program that was promised by Donald Trump in 2016 has been sent to the White House for approval, according to a chorus of concerned corporate immigration lawyers. The news was praised by advocates for U.S. professionals, but slammed by the immigration lawyers who guide foreign workers into hundreds of thousands of jobs that would otherwise go to young and old American graduates. Kevin Lin, founder of U.S. Tech Workers, said, "I am cautiously optimistic that real H-1B reform is in the works, but we have seen in the past the best intentions can be ground down by a strong lobbying effort. Americans are waking up to the cost of outsourcing and offshoring, especially when many furloughed Americans are not going to be rehired. This won't go well for anyone lobbying against a reform regulation. The new rule may score points with the president's political base, but it flunks Economics 101, countered Steve Yale Lore. That's hyphenated, Yale hyphen Lore, an immigration lawyer at Cornell Law School. It will also be immediately challenged in court, said Yale Lore, who declined to talk to Breitbart News. Business groups, including U.S. Chamber of Commerce, strongly oppose curbs on the H-1B and related visa worker programs. The programs provide CEOs with a large workforce of compliant foreign workers who cannot easily change jobs or launch rival companies. The foreign workforce also boosts stock prices by suppressing U.S. salaries, partly because many of the foreign workers work long hours at low wages for the chance of winning green cards. The Department of Homeland Security has submitted to the Office of Management and Budget a long-planned regulation to toughen H-1B eligibility criteria and impose new obligations on H-1B employers, said a September 4th statement from the major immigration firm Fragomen Del Rey, Bernson, and Lowy, LLP. Interestingly enough, not an Asian name in there. The statement continued, DHS plans to issue the regulation as an interim final rule with immediate or near immediate impact. This means that employers and other members of the public would not have an opportunity to provide public feedback before the rule takes effect. Though the contents of the regulation will remain confidential until release for publication, the rule is expected to revise the definition of an H-1B specialty occupation to increase focus on obtaining the best and brightest foreign nationals. The Fragomen statement says that the Fortune 500's Indian-dominated outsourcing sector will be covered by the rule. It is also expected to change the definitions of H-1B employment and the employer-employee relationship with a likely focus on the restriction of off-site placement of H-1B workers. This could lead to a requirement that H-1B employers and end clients jointly obtain labor condition applications for H-1B workers at client sites. A joint LCA requirement would create de facto joint employer liability for compliance with obligations concerning H-1B wages and working conditions. The lawyer's description matches the requirements set by President Donald Trump, who issued an executive order on June 22nd, temporarily barring H-1B workers and ordering a regulatory rewrite. A June 22nd statement from the White House said, at President Trump's direction, the Trump administration is taking action to reform our H-1B immigration program. Under these reforms, the H-1B program will prioritize those workers who are offered the highest wage, ensuring that the highest skilled applicants are admitted. The Trump administration will also close loopholes that have allowed employers in the United States to replace American workers with low-cost foreign labor. Though these reforms will help protect the wages of American workers and ensure that foreign labor entering our country is high-skilled and does not undercut the United States labor market. These goals largely implement a campaign pledge in March 2016 when Trump promised, "I will end forever the use of H-1B as a cheap labor program and institute an absolute requirement to hire American workers first for every visa and immigration program, no exceptions." An agency document estimates a resident population of 600,000 H-1B workers. Most are from India. Most hope to get green cards after several or even many years of compliant labor. Alongside the H-1B workers, the federal government also provides work permits to at least 100,000 H-4 spouses of H1B workers, plus roughly 400,000 practical training white-collar workers, plus roughly 50,000 L1 workers. Many of the legal foreign workers hold jobs as gig workers in the Fortune 500 subcontracting sector, alongside a mixture of illegal white-collar migrants, such as people who overstay their visas and people who take jobs while legally visiting on B1, B2 visas. This cheap labor green card economy effectively excludes millions of U.S. graduates from many starter jobs in the Fortune 500, partly because CEOs can pay foreign workers with the promise of green cards, while they have to pay American graduates with cash. But business advocates and reformers say Trump's pro-business deputies may quietly undermine the regulation by basing on weak legal claims and foundations. Many polls show that the Americans want to like immigrants, but they also put a higher priority on getting fellow Americans into good jobs. A wise president would ride those populist sentiments to ride into the White House again, said Lynn. Employees need to reach out to their elected reps and demand that the regulation match the intention, that the intention is what the President Trump ran in 2016. If the regulations match the campaign promise of 2016, we'll have to celebrate, said Lynn. If they don't, then the country needs to take action and make their opinions heard. So what to make of this particular story? Well, a couple of things. Number one, I bet you had no idea that H1B visas were going out to the tune of hundreds of thousands. That is quite a staggering number. Hundreds of thousands. I hope that you remember that when the Democrat Party was looking to drive workers in the energy field, such as coal miners and oil and gas producers, out of business, one of the sarcastic refrains that they took up to indicate their lack of empathy for displaced workers was learn to code. Learn to code. So the notion was you would come out of the mines of West Virginia, say 20 years into your career, and you would take a couple of YouTube courses, and then you would become an application developer and make the good money. Except the Democrats have ensured that there aren't jobs for coders by filling them with foreign workers whom they can more easily control, foreign workers who have a little more taste for socialism than Americans do. It's always a rigged game with these guys, isn't it? Trump put an end to that, and he did it very simply and elegantly. All right, if you want to bring in a foreign worker of some technical skill, then you must value that skill so highly that you're going to pay them more than you would an American doing the same job, right? That's the logic behind the H1B visa program. This is talent we cannot find here in the United States. The fact is, that's manifestly untrue. As usual, the Democrats do say one thing and then do the opposite. And so these wonderful, socially aware, woke tech companies were just looking for some slave coders to match their slave manufacturers in the Laogai camps of China. They like India because India, of course, having previously been a British colony, features a lot of people who speak English. But instead of simply taking the best and brightest from Indian universities, and they are quite bright, quite a lot brighter in my experience than graduates from the Ivy League in our country, take them and offer them a green card above board. Go through the process. Hey, these guys are fantastic. We really want them to be American citizens. They want to become American citizens. Great. Do you think anyone in America would be opposed to such people legitimately becoming American citizens? The answer is no. Heck, we'll even vote for them. Look at the career of Bobby Jindal in Louisiana. Louisiana's voting for a person of Indian descent. Not quite the narrative that the Democrats have so carefully crafted, is it? But instead, the Democrats, who are all about the plantation and have been since their misbegotten party was founded by the serial murderer, Andrew Jackson, they like their plantations. They prefer to have compliant, dependent people on those plantations. It makes them feel powerful. They don't raise a stake because, hey, you may pull their green card. So if you happen to be a wonderful coder working at Google, but you don't like the socialist aims of the ABC company, Alphabet, you don't like the way that political correctness is rigidly enforced and negatively impacts the product offerings that Google offers, well, you had better keep your damn mouth shut or they'll pack you up and ship you back. That is the reality that the H1B worker faces. Now, should we be upset with H1B workers or angry with them? Or no, of course not. They're trying to make better lives for themselves in the same way we try to make better lives for ourselves. That said, you have to ask the question, is it in our national interest to have hundreds of thousands H1B workers being paid scraps so that Mark Zuckerberg can buy another toilet made from a tree? I would say the answer is no. What is Trump trying to do here? Well, aside from Trump's ongoing concerns with human trafficking, which is what this amounts to, he also has a long-standing appreciation for the American worker. He would rather see those jobs building American companies actually be performed by Americans. And why not? That is rather the definition of patriotism, is it not? He made a promise. Trump has been better than just about any other president at keeping his promises. You can look him up. While you're at it, look up Barry Obama's. See how many of those he kept. And economically, Trump has been disturbed by the exodus of good-paying jobs from the United States, leaving us with this caste system wherein many of our workers are in service industry jobs, low wage, that cannot provide for them. While we have at the other end of the spectrum, the Democrat plantation masters who can extract unlimited economic wealth from their positions. That scenario is the one that Karl Marx was drooling over. All it takes is the destruction of the middle class. Trump is trying to preserve the middle class and thereby preserve the country. So there are great stakes in what otherwise would seem to be a minor regulatory kerfuffle here. I would say simply this. We're not opposed to immigration. As a country, that has been the general rule. But that has also come with the requirement that anyone who immigrates to our country assimilate into our country. You are not coming here to be Indian or Chinese or Mexican or Russian or Irish. You are coming here to be an American. That is what the melting pot means. And so immigration policy, which enhances that opportunity, is good and should be widely embraced. Trying to create a caste system in this country which suits the would-be rulers of it, that's not compatible with American culture. That we must say no to. And it doesn't matter how you tart it up. It doesn't matter how you try to suppress opposition to it. We really don't like the idea of screwing people over because they want to become Americans. And that's exactly what's being done by these tech bandits under the H1B program today. God bless Trump for trying to change that. And God willing, it will change.